So, guys, my husband, he's what we would call a coward. Okay, let me explain. He went into hiding because he didn't want to pay child support. Yeah, that's right, he's that big of a coward. He hid from me, he hid from the police, he hid from everybody. Guys, let me share today's story with you about this, and well, it's insane. In the past, I've met women who preferred to live alone for the rest of their lives rather than to be with any man. I used to think that they were being overly dramatic, or maybe they were their own problem, since most of their relationships never lasted. But after being married to my husband for only, 2+ years, I now understand why those women insisted that they were better off alone. Not to sound braggy, but there was a time when my husband Craig and I used to be so much in love. There was a couple of years ago when we had just met. Craig and I met on a dating site, and after going on multiple dates together, I believed that he was the one for me. So we took things to the next level. We dated for about 2 years, so you all won't say I rushed the relationship or rushed into the marriage. At the beginning of our relationship, Craig and I were the perfect couple. We went everywhere together, held hands while working, and did all the funny things people do when they're in love. But I think 7 months after Craig and I started dating, I found out that he was secretly having an affair. Now that I share my story, I really regret not breaking or ending things with him back then. Because if I did, I would not have probably been here seeking help. Back to the story. After I found out that Craig was cheating on me, we ended things temporarily and still got back together after a couple weeks. Don't blame me, it's one of the stupid things we do when we're in love. According to Craig, the girl was only his college friend, and the reason for his infidelity was that he had a lot to drink that night at a house party he attended, and he messed up. But he kept seeing the girl because he didn't want her to mess up our relationship. His excuse did not make any sense, but because I was simply blinded by love, I forgave him, and we moved on. I know, most people would say that if they ever catch their spouse cheating on them, they're going to walk away, but I'm telling you right now, it's not that easy. I used to say the same thing, but after coming out of a toxic, abusive relationship and meeting someone like Craig who made me feel good in my skin again, I couldn't just let him go. I loved him and wanted things to work out between us, because I saw a future with him and I wanted us to build a family together. So after I forgave Craig, our relationship returned to the way it used to be for a few more months, and after that it became a little bit shaky. As of the time I met Craig, I was working for a digital marketing company, while Craig was still in college. And months after he graduated, he was lucky to get a decent paying job in another state. The job required him to move, and the agreement was that we'd be visiting each other every other weekend until we moved to our own next move, and that seemed to work out for the few weeks. 3 months after he moved, however, our communication dropped into a terrible way, and he began to make excuses for our plans. He'd either bail on our weekend together without any prior notice, or he'd just make his regular excuses. It didn't take me long to realize that he was doing all that because of another woman. I knew this because every time we were together, he had a particular number that would always call him. And if I asked him why he wasn't taking the call, he would tell me it's work-related and he didn't want to mix work with pleasure. Or he would take the call outside so I would not hear whatever it was he was talking about. When I eventually found out that it was a woman and both of them were colleagues at work, something we all knew as a work wife, I was mad. I ended things between us, and I did not need to see any evidence because he's already acting sneaky. But he claimed that I was overreacting and that almost 70% of the people at his organization had a work husband and a work wife, so I didn't have to worry about anything. Honestly, everything he said or tried to explain was contradictory to his actions. He said that there's nothing between him and his so-called work wife. Yet our communication dropped and he never took her calls in my presence, and he's always acting sneaky. After we broke up that day, I returned to the state I lived in and cried my eyes out, because on my end I was nothing but faithful to him. Even though having a work wife or husband was something most people did at their office, I was never a part of it because I knew how most of the situations turned out. For the 1 month that we were apart, Craig tried to reach me several times and showed up all weekend for us to talk, but I refused. I felt betrayed and used by him, and to make things worse, the memories of his previous infidelity messed with my head badly, and something in me was literally screaming that they had already taken their work relationship to the workplace. Even with all those things playing out in my head after Craig kept begging to explain, I gave him a listening ear, and he managed to convince me that there's nothing going on between him and his wife, and that he would end it or, prove it to me. Anyways, he ended it, and we got back together. I won't say things were all rosy in our relationship after that, because it wasn't. I'd be bluffing if I said we didn't have any other issues after that. We had a couple of ups and downs, but we weathered the storm together, and we ended up dating for 2 years. And by the time, we were both financially stable enough to start a family, so we got married. After Craig and I married, I had to move down to the state he worked in because there was a better opportunity for me there. With my years of experience at the digital marketing company I work for, I was able to get a good paying job. Almost 3 times what I earned before, more than Craig's pay, and Craig was doing well too. Since the incident between Craig and his wife at work, we'd never had any women or cheating-related issues again. Not even a single text message from any of his female colleagues, and I don't know, I just find that very weird. The kind of relationship we had was that Craig could easily have access to my phone, and the same applied to me. We didn't need to write an application to look at each other's phones because of our agreement, and each time I had the opportunity to go through his phone, I found nothing. It was always sparky, clean, free of flirty messages or anything from a woman. Deep down, I was impressed that my husband was faithful, but after thinking about it for a while, it became very, very suspicious. 90% of the contacts on his phone were saved with male names, right? And the only female names I recognized were people that we already knew while we were dating. By the time that it actually dawned on me that something else could have been going on, I was already pregnant, and my suspicion kept growing. Well, I talked to my closest friend about it, and she advised me not to dig deeper until I had given birth. I'd known her advice sounds kinda stupid, but she was only saying that because of my mental health. My pregnancy was a rough one, and I had so many cases of high blood pressure. She didn't want me to add to it, and that's why she said. Thank goodness I listened to her because it would have been disastrous for me. After I gave birth to our son, my suspicion grew. Apart from not helping with the baby, even when I was literally burnt out, Craig was disconnected from us. He was emotionally absent, and he changed as much that I didn't recognize my husband anymore. I know that some of you can say, having a baby can put a strain on a parent-child relationship because of the adjustment they simply need to make. But ours was really bad. For example, if their baby woke up at 2 a.m, Craig would yell at me to get out of bed and go to the baby. The first time it actually happened, I thought he was joking, but he wasn't. Also, if I let the baby with Craig to go to the bathroom or do something, he would let the baby cry and turn red. It was strange because he was always all over me when I was pregnant. Or maybe, I don't know, he was just pretending as well. As if ignoring his own child wasn't enough, he began to verbally abuse me. Everyone who has been a mother knows how difficult caring for a newborn baby alone can be. It literally drained you. I had to struggle with depression and so much more just for our baby. I stayed back from work for months to look after our child, yet he treated me like trash. If he came home and dinner was not ready on time, he would make a fuss about it, call me all kinds of names. But guys, it did not just, end there. No. He began to body shame me, and he called me names like swollen pig, ugly duckling, and elephant. Other degrading names. Then he started using all the things that I had told him about my past against me. Let's say I sleep off too while breastfeeding the baby. He would say something like, "You're so clumsy. This is why your ex left you. Dude must have really seen you for who you are." Yeah, when all these things started to change, I thought that he was only messing around, and I warned him against talking to me like that. The first few times, it resulted in a fight, and I even blamed myself for taking things out of hand. I blamed my outburst of emotions, but months after the whole pregnancy hormones and flippin' emotions were gone, I realized that I had nothing to do with it. I know it's embarrassing, but I still say it. Right from my childhood, I've really struggled with low self-esteem, and words get to me easily. Words or statements other people would easily shake off or talk back to make me look at myself differently. My body had really changed during pregnancy and even after, so when Craig would call me names like ugly duckling, a swollen pig, or tell me that I eat like a gluten, it really got to me. Even with all of this verbal abuse, I still stayed with him because I wanted our baby to have a father I never had. I took all his insults and did not say anything. It eventually got to the point where we were having fights every single day, and he always hated it when I spoke back to him. One day, in the midst of the ranting and yelling, I yelled back at him in anger, and he slapped me. I was livid and jumped on to attack him back, but since he was stronger, he threw me on the couch, and I sprained my left arm. It was almost like a shock to me that the same man who promised to love me and look after me laid his hands upon me. This was the same Craig I helped with, a lot of money while he was in college. I paid his rent 3 times and never asked for all the money he promised to pay back because I loved him. He slapped me in front of our baby, who was crying already because we were yelling so loud, and then he left the house. I was in so much hurt and disbelief that I had to call my friend to come over. She was so shocked when she saw that one side of my face was red and Craig's fingerprints were covered on my left cheek. That night, I had to go to the hospital for my sprained arm because I was in a lot of pain. I had a deep lip cut on my lower lip, and the side of my left eye had grown puffy. I don't know if it was from the effect of the slap or from crying. If not for my friend, I don't know what I would have done that day. She was so mad at me for letting Craig do that to me, and she called the police. We reported the case to the police, and Craig was arrested and fined. And after he was released, he didn't come back home. Even with all that hurt, I still wanted him back because I believed that whatever caused him to change could take him back to the Craig that I used to know. But I was wrong. Weeks passed and Craig did not come home. He never called to ask about or even check on his son, and this got me angry. I tried calling him several times, but he didn't even take my call. I sent him direct messages on Facebook, but he didn't even read any of them. Trust me, guys, I was heartbroken because I knew where all of this was leading. The reason I tolerated Craig in the first place was because my mom raised me as a single parent, and I knew how much she struggled to raise me and give me a good education in life. She literally had to pause her life to give me mine, and I didn't want that. It was the reason I wanted a family, homely man, and Craig appeared to be that kind of person. After the incident that night, the next time I saw him was weeks later, when he came in to take some clothes. He didn't say a word to me or look at our baby, and that's when I realized that we could never go back to the way that we used to be. After his quick visit home, I decided to do a little digging, and I found out that he was living with another woman. Guess who, guys? A lady named Jamaica. Jamaica was the same work wife that he told me that he ended things with a long time ago. That was literally the last straw that broke the camel's back for me, so I filed for divorce and got child custody. Thankfully, since he's never been interested in our son since birth, and heck, the boy rarely even knows his father, it was enough reason for me to get child custody. Craig was only allowed to visit Jaden on weekends, which he never did and hasn't done to date. Since I got full custody, Craig was mandated to pay child support every month, and guys, it's been 4 months and I haven't received a dime. He only paid for it the first few months and stopped. Every time I called his phone, it went to voicemail. And the one time I contacted his girlfriend, wife-to-be, Jamaica, she told me that she had no idea where Craig was. I've tried to be patient, but this is really annoying me, and it's getting out of hand now. How am I supposed to take care of our son like I should if his father is ditching his responsibilities? The last time I looked at Craig's Facebook and Instagram, it's been quiet for over 4 months now. He hasn't made any posts in months, which is very unlike him. With all that has been going on so far, my guts are telling me that Craig is trying to escape child support by hiding. What do I do, guys? Would I be considered the a-hole if I went to Jamaica's house this time? That's where he lives now, and it's the only way that I can find him. I do look forward to your comments and suggestions. Thanks. Update number 1. Hello guys, thank you so much for your comments and suggestions. Yes guys, I'm also taking partial responsibility for everything that's happened. Now that I'm sharing this and reflecting on it, I wish I had walked away when I should have. I thought Craig would be different, and I fell for his sweet words and persuasion. I didn't know that he was a snake all along, and if not for someone here pointing it out, I never would have thought that Craig would be using him. Most of the help and money that I loaned him, I only did because I loved him, and believed that he would do the same for me if I needed help. Everything you guys have said really makes sense. For the remaining year he was in college, I tried my best to make it easy for him. I took care of so many things because I loved him. After marriage, our plan was to collaboratively pay off his student loan. I'd already joined him 3 months into the repayment before his attitude towards me started changing. I understand that some of you are saying I should have taken action when I suspected that something was off and should not have listened to my friend, but what difference would it have made? I still found out that he's been secretly having an affair behind my back the whole time, and he was probably tired of hiding it. So, concerning the obvious change in character after the birth of our son, I recently joined the pieces of puzzles together. There was a time that I had a lengthy conversation with Craig before the birth of our baby, and he said something about him not being ready. My guess right now is that he's probably going to push this whole idea of wanting to start a family on me, and I do agree that it was my idea for us to have a child one day, but I did not pressure it. I tried my best to talk about the marriage until he was ready. So when he popped the question, I said yes. I said yes because I thought that he was ready and wanted to start something. I mean, our relationship has gone through a lot lately, and I just thought he just wanted us to settle down together. If I had the smallest idea that this is, how things would turn out to be, I would not have agreed to marry him, let alone have a baby. Now, I have to deal with raising our son alone because he's made it very obvious that he wants nothing to do with us. 80% of the comments have said that I should pay Jamaica a visit. And a visit I will. I had to wait a couple days to see if he would make my calls or return them, but that was me acting stupid again. Once I returned from seeing Jamaica, I'll make another update to let you guys know how things turned out. Thank you everybody for all of your comments. Update number 2. Hello everyone. I promised to make another update after visiting Jamaica, so that's what I'm going to do. You guys won't believe what I was told. So I went to Jamaica's house last week, and yes, it was the weekend, and I was sure that she would be at home. Immediately, I knocked on her door, and she opened it, and she recognized me right away. I told her it was Craig's ex-wife, that I had come to her place because I had not heard from Craig in months, and he wasn't taking his calls either. The first thing she said to me was, "Oh, you didn't hear?" The look on her face was upsetting, and when I asked her what she was talking about, she told me that Craig has died. That had to be the funniest thing I've heard in a very long time. Craig dead? How? That's not possible. I'm not disputing the fact that unfortunate things can happen and people die every day, but it just sounded awkward for her to tell me that Craig was dead when you told me about 2 or 3 weeks ago that she knew nothing about his whereabouts. So I went ahead, asked her what happened when he died, and she said that he was involved in a ghastly motor accident and he didn't make it. Yeah, right, how typical. She even went ahead to show me the death certificate that was issued to him at the hospital. And the data showed it was issued 4 months ago, around the same time that he stopped taking my calls. Before you all start sending condolences, I want to tell you that I don't buy it at all. I smell foul play because their stories are not aligning. Now, I've learned my trust instincts, and if my instincts tell me there's foul play, then there is. Just last week, I bumped into one of Craig's colleagues from work, and he did not mention anything to me. All he told me was that Craig stopped showing up at work, and no one knew his whereabouts. Honestly, things got me a little worried, but after meeting Jamaica, the worry just disappeared. I have no idea what they are trying to do, but I have the feeling that Craig is only trying to escape paying the child support. I've been with him for 4 years, and I know that he can be very dramatic at times, and would not even mind faking his own death if he had an accomplice. Before making this update, I reached out to his family members to ask if they've heard about Craig's death, and all of them said no one's heard such a thing. Even though his parents know that we're divorced, they still call once in a while to check up on their grandbaby. Jaden is their only grandson, and I can't deny that to them. When I spoke to his mother earlier last week, she told me that there's a mix-up somewhere, and if anything happened to Craig, Jamaica would not wait 4 months to tell them that. If truly Craig is trying to fake his own death to escape paying child support, then I really give it to him. I was just 50% mad at him for ignoring my calls and refusing to pay child support, but this game of his just took my anger to a different level. I don't care what his plan is or what he hopes to achieve from it, but I'm sure that when Jamaica gets to court, she'll be able to tell the judge the whereabouts of her fiancé. Yeah, that's right, I'm dragging her butt to court because I did a little digging before making this post, guys, and I've been following a lead, and once I get it, she's getting served. I can't condone such nonsense, and I have no plans to care for our son alone for the rest of my days. Update number 3. Hey guys, I can't thank you all enough for the patience and support that you've given me. I know it's been a long time and you're all probably wondering why it took me so long to make another update. My apologies, I had so much to take care of, I didn't want to bore you with another story. So I decided to wait till everything was finalized. I'm really grateful. Concerning the lead I mentioned in my last post after Jamaica told me that Craig was dead, and she showed me that fake death certificate. I returned it to my friend and she assured me that we would get to the root of this. So, she suggested that we hire a private investigator to watch Jamaica's house and follow her. She believed that if Craig was still alive, she would try to see him in secrecy. And I bought the idea. As of the time I made the last update, the PI has been following Jamaica for a few days, but hasn't gotten a hit. Well, weeks ago, he told me that he followed Jamaica to a restaurant, and she met up with a guy who had an uncanny resemblance to Craig. The only difference was that the guy's hair was black, while Craig had dirty brown hair. He was also dressed like a Gen Z teenager who wore baggy pants and t-shirts, so that made him look a bit younger, I'd say. At first I thought the girl was cheating on Craig already. If, all that, he was dead. But when he showed me the pictures and videos, I froze. It wasn't just an uncanny resemblance, it was Craig. He just dyed his hair black, changed his outfit to make himself look a bit younger. I wanted to confront him and get his butt arrested. But after thinking about it, I decided to tango with him. So I took the pictures as evidence and I sued Jamaica for being an accomplice. On our court hearing day, can you guys believe that Jamaica claimed she had never met Craig, so she knew nothing about his whereabouts? She didn't mention the death certificate she showed me or anything related to the sad story, she said. She just said she didn't know Craig and that was it. She was so annoying and I really wanted to rip her hair out of her head. But I have to hold myself together. With all that I gathered, I knew she was an accomplice to Craig, and I just wanted to bring him out of this, hole that he's in. So I just went ahead and allowed her to play dumb for a whole while before showing a shred of evidence. After she plays dumb for a bit, I showed the judge the evidence and he noticed the uncanny resemblance between Craig and the other man, and when she was shown the picture and asked who the other man was with black hair, she was shocked to see the picture. She claimed that he was her cousin, but after watching a video of them cuddling and making out in one of the restaurants, with the audio of them talking about me and how I'd, back off in just a few weeks if he kept hiding so they could travel the world, she had nothing to say. In that video, they even talked about the assets Jamaica was helping Craig hide, and to that point there was nothing she said anymore. The judge was angry and gave Jamaica her own share of punishment for helping Craig evade the law and his responsibility. Later that week, when Craig realized that he was just bursting, he came out of his hiding place and begged me to not drag his butt to court. He claimed that he was a changed man and he didn't mind if we were divorced. He would move back in with me and our son and be the best dad and husband ever. Like there was nothing that he did not say to try to convince me. That sounded very tempting, but I would be a fool to fall for his sweet words again. Long story short, I dragged his butt to court and I sued him to pay the unpaid loans, child support, and someone here suggested so. He didn't just pay child support for the months he was away, I asked for alimony too. I didn't ask before because a part of me still loved him, but after everything I've been through and seeing such a level of deception, I felt no remorse. He was ordered to pay back everything he owed, including the money owed years ago, and now Jamaica is out of his life. And I made sure that I ruined his relationship with his parents completely. As it is, he's no longer having a job. Somebody hinted to his colleague that he faked his death, and I just wonder who that could be. In addition to that, he's very broke at the moment because he paid me heavily, and he's also homeless. I hope this teaches him a lesson. I don't want him anywhere close to our son. He could be with Jamaica for as long as he wants. He still calls me to date, and he's been sending a series of voicemails and messages, begging, saying that if I give him one last chance. LOL, this ugly duckling does not want him. Thank you so much, guys, for your suggestions. You're all the best. Much love. So it looks like Craig has found himself to be broke, homeless, jobless, and basically has his life falling apart because he doesn't have OP or Jamaica in his life anymore. And I just want to know if you guys think that Craig deserved this a sense of karma in today's story. Yes, there was a bit of revenge as well, so I just want to know, do you think that Craig deserved this? In my opinion, he was a pretty bad person. He went behind OP's back, but I do want to know your thoughts about it because he's homeless now, he doesn't have a job, and he's probably really depressed, so I never want to wish that on anybody, even though he was basically a jerk. I just want to know your thoughts, guys. Drop it down below in the comments section. My name's Mr. Reddito. Thank you for joining me on another wild drama ride, and I hope to see you tomorrow. Just remember, it's cool to be kind. Peace.